So I'm here with Michael Haslam, who is the Director of Music at St. James's, and we are 3 levels up? We are 3 levels up now on the scaffolding, and we are right in front of the organ case, and we have all of these lead and tin pipes laid out in front of us, and we are right in the middle of this working experience surrounded by all sorts of different things, and this is the first time that you've been up here. So what's your first impression? What do you think?
Well, it's extraordinary. It's an honour to be here at this sort of pivotal moment, standing on the threshold of a new start. And we came up past the chair case, which was not part of the original organ in 1689 or whatever it was, but it was added in 1851 or 1852. And then when effectively a new organ was put inside in like 1912 or 1920 or something, the Rothwell, they took all the pipes out of that chair case, and it's now empty. It's been empty ever since, which is sort of weird. So that's always been, for me, like a ghost in the rest of an organ which, even though it wasn't speaking, was still sort of here.
Like a kind of voice echo or something that had been displaced, and that was temporarily, but for goodness knows how long, housed in a place that was never meant to be.
Yes, and also that's on the second level, and on the first level, beneath the chair case, was where the console was in the most recent iteration. And that's not the right place for the console being the keyboards and the stops and the pedal board and the swell pedal and everything that you control the organ from, that you play it from. That was on like the first lowest level, the same level as the rest of the gallery where congregations sit. And there were practical reasons for that. It meant that the conductor could play the organ and conduct the singers either side of him. Where the next level, where the chair case is, that's where the console would have been.
Okay.
In 1850 and in 1689, and it's where the console will be in 2 years' time.
So we're bringing the console back to where it should be.
Exactly.
And so eventually, when you and other folks who come after you will play this, they will be sitting in the same place as people will have sat for 350 years.
Quite possibly even Handel sat there.
Who's Handel?
George Frederic Handel, composer of Messiah.
I'm not going to ask you who the Messiah is.
And this wasn't his parish church. His parish church was St. George's, Hanover Square, just up the road. But almost certainly he would have been here. It was a new church, there was a new organ. He would have wanted to check out what was going on.
What do you think it would have been like, knowing what you know so far, and we're going to learn more about the instrument, in and around that time, before the 19th century, before the Victorians came in? What kind of sound would this thing have made?
Well, it would have made an organ sound. Basically, organ sound hasn't changed. It's subtly changed over the centuries, and different national schools of organ building had slightly different accents. So French organs sounded a bit French, German organs, North German organs and Danish organs sounded a bit Baltic, and the organs in the Low Countries were sort of like a mixture of the French organs and the North German organs. And I think the organs in England were a sort of extension of the Low Country organs. Bernard Smith, Father Smith, who was paid to move this organ from where it had been in the chapel of St. James's Palace. I'm slightly hazy about this. When it was James II's wife's chapel, and then James II died or something, and they didn't want this very Catholic organ in a sort of monarchical place.
So it came from a royal peculiar, as it
Yes,
were.
yeah.
It has this wonderful royal heritage, and it also, I suppose, for us, has a bit of an awkward royal heritage,
Yes, exactly.
because there was an organ going spare. It was almost like an opportunity arose out of a very awkward religio-political
Exactly
royal set of circumstances. And so
Exactly
we
so.
have this as a counter-Reformation relic.
Yeah, and there were the two main organ builders of London in this post-restoration time were Bernard Smith, who built the organ in St Paul's Cathedral in about 1695, and Harris. And Harris had built this organ for this Catholic chapel in Whitehall. But when it came to, we want to get rid of it, we'll give it to that new church down the road, it was Smith who did the moving and re-erecting in St James's. Famously, the temple, Middle Temple, the Temple Church, one of the oldest churches in London, with that extraordinary circular round chapel.
Based on the Church of the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem.
which
it was
is
like
where-
stepping into this sacred place.
I think kings were buried there and crowned there, maybe.
It's a whole thing.
It's a whole thing. They wanted a new organ, and because they were all lawyers, they said, we're not just going to bid with one contractor to build the organ. We're going to, how about you build the organ and you build the organ? Both of you build the organ in this church, and we'll decide which one is best, and that one will get paid.
That's brutal. Can you imagine those people working simultaneously, knowing that they were rivals every day?
And sort of hating each other.
And sort of hating each other.
And
Wow.
it was called the Battle of the Organs.
It's so great that that happened, and also so terrible that
Yeah.
that happened. You wouldn't do it that way today anywhere,
And
hopefully.
there were two inventions that were in one of the organs in that Battle of the Organ. I think it might have been Harris that was the more revolutionary. Those organs, they didn't have a swell pedal to make things louder or softer. That was only invented later. But it was always a problem with the organ. You couldn't do a gradual crescendo. And I think they had something in one of those organs where they had a set of, if you like, stops, but they were all the same. So you had like 7 pipes for each note that sounded exactly the same, and with a pedal you could introduce gradually extra sets of pipes so you could get a crescendo. It was quite an expensive way of doing it, to have 7 stops just for one sound, but so you could get a crescendo. That was one thing that was revolutionary in that organ, which I think was Harris, might be wrong. And also there's always a problem tuning instruments, whichever instrument it is, but particularly with the organ, because it sustains, it doesn't get quieter, it's just going on and on and on. And if it's out of tune, it just goes on and on out of tune forever, and it's horrible. Complicated things involving temperament, but we have 12 notes to the octave, and then you repeat, but all the intervals are not quite in tune, so they had extra notes to the octave to make it possible to play more keys in tune. They had 17 notes to the octave, so the black notes had extra pipes, and the black notes were split in two.
That makes me think of the phrase belt and braces, right? Or being able to ensure that there is a depth and a consistency of quality, knowing that the very nature of the instrument is kind of risky in the way that it's going to be able to deliver or not deliver what needs to happen musically. And a lot of the work from that period that composers are producing, it's delicate, it's quick, it's agile and elegant. I'm thinking from the point of view of an amateur singer, really, that the kind of material that's produced has a huge range of dynamics, is really exciting to play still, and being able to play it when in a couple of years' time the organ is complete and has returned to its case, but in a different way, honoring those 17th century traditions, it's going to be mind-blowing. There's something really revolutionary about it. And up here at the minute, we are standing in front of a box of hundreds of little tiny organ pipes some of the thousands of pipes that have been languishing in this place, unheard, unvoiced. I'm learning my vocabulary for the last few decades. And would you like to pick one up? And we could take a look. You've selected a small one from the right-hand side of the case. So what can we see?
There are two parts of this pipe. There's a part which is conical that goes down from the foot of the pipe to the mouth. The mouth it's like a recorder. If you can imagine a recorder,
yeah.
But the bit that you put in your mouth is much longer because it doesn't need to go in your mouth. And that would sit on the wind chest, and there'll be a hole underneath it which, when you push the key down, would let air go into the pipe.
So the air comes in from below.
The air comes in from below. The pipe is vertical, sitting on the wind chest, and the wind comes up to the mouth, and there's a very narrow gap, a lip. So there's a flat thing inside the pipe that starts the speaking length of the pipe. And the mouth is at one end and the other end is open. And if you blow it,
What I enjoyed about that was not only the sound and your enthusiasm, but also that a huge cloud of dust flew out of it.
Could have been worse.
Blew it. The dust bunnies of ages are now escaping.
Could have been a small mammal.
True, and it makes a sort of pure, sweet kind of noise, even at that pitch. And I'm curious about what would happen if you had the same circumference, let's say, and the same thing going on with the mouth, but the top of it was longer. Would that make a difference or not?
Yes, it would. If you, the longer the pipe, the lower the note.
Ah, okay.
So if I pick up another.
Okay, so now we have another one, which is longer. It's very similar sort of circumference.
It's not that much longer, but it's about. So speaking length of the first one we heard is about 4.5 inches. And the speaking length of the second one I've just picked up is about 5 inches.
Okay.
So it's just half an inch or centimetre longer, but it's slightly narrower, so it should have a different tone. But let's see what this one plays. So this is the first one, and this is the second. That's certainly lower.
That's much nicer. Let's play the second one more often.
Well, of course, the speaking length of this isn't that because of this hole.
I see.
It's like a slot.
I see.
So the speaking length only goes from there to there, so that's about 3 inches maybe, or 3.5 inches.
Okay.